Hi guys, welcome to my ALCI ISO creator builder, and it's the one that I've started with in May. So I just started the video before this, how to quickly get back my look that I love at this point in time, which is the surfing icons, the new Casablanca folders, and then my fishies as I call them. So that's done. Everything is working just fine. I had to install Arc Darkest GTK theme because that's a new theme, so that was not on the system yet. So sudo pacman -s, and still it's not up there, but RIP will tell you that I've installed Arc Darkest theme kit with the dependencies with it. So I've got myself a nice desktop to teach you something totally different. So take a look what the project personal, what it's all about, this folder personal that's there, and that's what we've done. ALCI has a new ISO. It's called ALCI ISO Zen. And the idea of the Zen thing is because maybe you want to have another kernel. So sudo pacman -s Linux. These are the things we can install on Arch. There's Linux firmware we need, Linux hardened, Linux LTS, and linux-zen, and all the headers of all these guys. So the idea is to have a linux-zen. Okay, what's now the difference between an ALCI ISO, for example, and an ALCI ISO Zen? I always tell you there's only one way to learn, and I always tell you guys, nobody teaches me, so teach yourself, and that's by comparing and by reading code. So these two guys, you can easily learn what I've done by comparing. So the difference is that here we have in the make init cpio.d, no clue what that is, Google Arch wiki make init cpio, read. That is the main reason why I'm not on Linux Mint, why I'm not on Ubuntu, but why I'm on Arch, because of the wiki. I've read a lot, and there are pages on there I've read like dozens of time, really dozens of time, and still don't get them. Okay, parts of it, and doesn't matter. It is only parts that you need, as long as it works. You've understood it. Okay, so go and read. So the linux-zen and the Linux preset, there is one difference, and one difference only. Can I not zoom in? Can I make this bigger, guys? Zoom, preferences, editor font, use system font, and make this bigger. Okay, found the button. Okay, the only difference is four letters. I've added to the system, and that's something you should know, right? When the computer boots up, it goes to the boot folder, and it boots up this guy and that guy, and that's a fallback. So it needs this guy mainly to boot up, but also this guy. Well, both then, right? So Zen has been added. That's it. There's no more difference than that between these two guys. This is for convenience sake. Rather than booting up with DWM ALCI, I wanted to boot up in XFC. Right. Okay. And then the rest, scroll down, and here it starts. Either you're an old machine, that's old machine, then it's BIOS, or you are on a new machine and it's EFI. Difference, again, the name. VM Linux or VM Linux Zen, or VM Linux LTS, or VM Linux hardened, right? So the difference is 4 letters, just mainly the Zen addition here, the Zen addition here, the Zen, the Zen. So I will tell the system boot up with that kernel, and you can find it there. Luckily, this is not a film. Sometimes it happens in films that they go back years, and then 10 years and 15 years, and you don't know anymore how the storyline is because it always switches in time, and they don't tell you, right? That's the worst kind of video or film. In this case, it really is really structured. This is the first thing it does. You boot up, and you either boot up in an old system or a new system, and you tell it what to do. You tell it, go get and launch Zen. So that's the first change in your timeline. The first thing that you boot up, that's in your timeline. Go get and boot that Zen thing up. And the same here. Go boot the Zen and the Zen and the Zen. Just compare every single file and you'll see the difference. So if you're watching this video and have already in mind, I'm gonna get myself a Linux LTS, that's it. Zen changes in LTS, nothing more. So that's all that. And then with the scripts, and all we did is we gave it its own home directory. Where will you put it? The out folder? Well, put it in the Zen out, right? ALCI ISO Zen. So it has its own directory when built. That's it, the out folder. Same here. And same you can do with LTS. So that's that. Anything else? Yes, it's not finished. So if we just copy paste it and changed a few lines, how did I figure that out? Use the tools. Open terminal here. Rip grep is installed. Rip grep is installed by default. RG Linux. Let's try this. So we'll see every single word where the word Linux comes, you can see. And the init RAM Linux is here, and the VM Linux is here. So if you wanna VM Linux, so all the references are here. Every single reference to that particular kernel is there. What's here then? The same with Zen and Zen and Zen and Zen and Zen and Zen, right? And that's the difference. So basically this gives you the places where to change it to LTS or hardened. All right, so that's still the same thing, right? That's the build folder, that folder and that folder. But there is also a ALCI Calamares config Zen. Why is that? Well, compare. Right mouse click, compare. And it seems there are 3 packages that are different. The init CPIO, rather than building my files for the boot folder, right? Make init CPIO. Don't build me the Linux one, build me the Linux-zen one. That's the preset we've created. That's why the preset was there. It's coming all together. Packages. In Calamares, wait. In the timeline, we've booted up with Linux-zen. We have XFCE with Calamares in front of us. We do a neofetch. We see the Linux-zen kernel is loaded. We run Calamares and everything is set, and then we run it. Somewhere down the line, it's a very simple somewhere. It is a structure that we've defined in here. That's the chronological story of our video, of our film. this is what it's going to do. Welcome, locale, keyboard, partition, user, summary. And then it's gonna go all through these lists. Sorry, and it's gonna do this. And then later on the packages. We're talking about the packages. So the packages, that's still open here. Voila. And then here I said, get rid of Linux. So assuming you don't want Linux on your real machine, on your real metal machine, then I say in Calamares, get rid of Linux. There was, however, a problem. Broadcom WL, so the ArcoLinux guys, if you install Broadcom WM, it has a dependency of Linux. Yeah, it amazed me too, but if you look at the files, it's using the libraries of a module, of a certain module, then it makes sense again. So this Broadcom WL is actually using something from the kernel, the Linux kernel. So if you don't need Broadcom WL, you just delete it, right? You just put a hashtag in front of it. Now there's another guy, and that's called DKMS. So I think if you need that one, I think so. Don't have it myself, this hardware, but you should be able to use that one if you need Broadcom WL, right? So I've deleted it altogether from my package list. I don't want Broadcom WL to be there, and solved it that way, because if you, Calamares is very prudent, very cautious. It will not remove something if there's dependency for it. So if Broadcom WL is on the list and you say here, try to remove it, right? Try to remove it. Somewhere up here, it's gonna say something like, we'll try to remove it, but it's, if Pacman says no, cannot because of dependencies, Linux stays on there. Try remove will call the package manager to remove one or more packages. The remove target will abort the whole installation if package removal fails, while try remove carries on. Packages may be listed as local names. So it's actually try to remove, and if it doesn't fail, don't break Calamares, but also leave Linux. And that's why we've removed Broadcom WL, right? So Linux goes out of the window during installation of Calamares. So when you boot up, the Linux, the VM Linux is not there, but the VM linux-zen is still there. Call it? I would say just build the ISO and observe what's going on in these boot folders. So okay, let's compare again. It was still open, I think. No, it wasn't. So this one, we tell them linux-zen. Next one, we got rid of Linux, complex reasons, well, dependencies. But this one is also important. It is strange, but it is the way it is, right? Just adapt. So ArcoLinux needs not a complete, not only it needs a complete unsquashing of that particular file, but that particular file does not have a kernel. There is nothing in the boot folder. I say, huh? How is that possible? This is the way ArchISO uses their scripts. We need to have something to boot up from. So we need VM linux-zen to be there. And that's basically what we do. We say here, get us the Linux kernel. And here we say, get us the linux-zen kernel and put it in the boot folder. If all that is done, then you've got an ISO based on Zen. You boot into Zen, you have Calamares, click, 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 and then you have a future system on Zen or LTS. So by way of test, I know this works. 15 minutes. In the next video, I'll make an ALCI Calamares config LTS and an ALCI ISO LTS. Did I say that right? ALCI Calamares config LTS and ALCI ISO LTS. Just for the fun. Alright, cheers.